Boston Connect Real Estate, a boutique firm that is home to over 30 real estate sales and marketing agents who service home buyers and home sellers throughout Boston, the South Shore, the South Coast, and Cape Cod. Our firm takes pride in assisting our clients in the next chapter of their lives by taking a holistic approach to their real estate endeavors. We believe that every move should be a moving experience. Every week, my co-host Melissa Wallace and I will provide you with my team's unique marketing approach to selling homes and share with you our expertise in navigating the home buying process. We value the experience of our agents at Boston Connect Real Estate so much that not only will you hear my perspective on real estate topics, occasionally you will hear the expert thoughts and opinions of our experienced agents at Boston Connect Real Estate. Be a part of our roundtable. If you have any questions during the show, please call 781-837-4900. We'd love to talk real estate. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you like to listen to podcasts at Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you would like a one-on-one consultation with me and my team to discuss your real estate needs, you can connect with me at bostonconnect.com or 781-826-8000. Now, sit back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate. And good morning to all my South Shore neighbors. This is Sharon McNamara. You are, of course, listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. Another beautiful day here in Massachusetts, and I'm tired of it, Mother Nature. Knock, knock, we're calling. But I have my sidekick with me this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Alyssa Wallace.
Good morning.
Director of Operations here at Boston Connect and Agent Liaison, our agent relations. And we have Tim McKinney in the WATD house in Marshfield. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I love you, Sharon, but I wish you were a little louder.
Okay, perfect. I will make that
Yes.
happen for
Thank
you, okay?
Thank you. Melissa, you're coming through just fine.
Oh, thank you very
Yes,
much.
you're welcome.
I try to have a loud voice, and believe it.
Yes, you're great.
Believe it or not, I'm the most quiet one in my family. Everyone else is so loud.
Oh, well,
So there we go. But yeah, so Sharon just changed her levels, so hopefully we're good on that end. But happy Mother's Day.
Well, thank you. And you sent me some beautiful flowers yesterday, so that was a very nice surprise. And you know
Yeah.
I love yellow tulips.
Yep, and right here from the candy jar. So give a shout out to the candy jar here in
Yay.
Pembroke Center.
Yes, Kim is the best,
Kim
for sure.
is the best. Yeah, I pretty much just have to say, you know what Sharon likes. There we go.
Yes, they were beautiful. And I love yellow and purple together, so she put some purple in there as well for me. So,
Yeah.
And then my daughter Casey sent me some flowers. She sent me some peonies, but she called them something else, but I'm pretty sure they're peonies.
Oh.
And I love peonies. They're like nice and tight,
Yeah.
like the big bulb
Yeah,
ones, you know
yeah.
what I mean? So when they fluff up, because the last time she sent me flowers, I won't say from where, but it's a 1-800.
Yeah. 1-800 number.
Yeah. And when the tulips come, it's like they lasted a day, and they're
Yeah.
expensive. You
Yeah.
know, flowers are super expensive. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you and Ethan sending those to me yesterday. It was a very, very nice surprise. It brightened up my day for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll brighten up your day today because, not so great outside.
I know.
But my mom did text me earlier and wished you a happy Mother's
Well,
Day.
happy
so-
Mother's Day to her as well. Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, and we had a great Mother's Day event last weekend. I know we chatted about it a little bit before last week on our show. Some of our agents, including you, put on this great event for some of our friends, family, clients for Mother's Day. So a nice little, you can come here and make a bouquet. And I think that's becoming our, nothing tops the Christmas event.
Yeah,
but
well, for me, it does. This one did.
Yeah.
I love the Mother's Day event, and I invited a handful of people, and just because, I don't know, just time got ahead of me or whatever, so I invited a handful of people, and they showed up, and one of the things that I thought was so nice is, getting to chat with everybody, and it made it nice, too, because since I only invited a few, I got to talk to all of them, because sometimes our events, they get very hectic, and it's a lot of moving pieces and refilling, the Danish and all that. But, when they were leaving, so many of my clients were like, I love you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I love you too. So, it was
a great day.
It was a great day. It was a great day for a great day. You got me that sign one time.
Yeah.
Remember
it's
that?
a good day to have a good day or something.
It's a good day for no. It's a great day for a great day or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. So what are we going to be discussing today? I know that this was something that we discussed a few over a month ago. We talked
Yeah.
about this topic.
Yeah, but you know us, we don't always get to everything. But of course, we do a show, every week on things that are happening in our everyday business. And, you have a couple closings coming up and you're the listing agent for those. And, it gets to the point in the transaction where, the client say, oh, how do I do this? I never thought about this. Or, oh, thanks so much for reminding me. I never sort of even thought about it. And it can be as simple as, turning off your utilities, transferring ownership and things like that. So we want to talk about it's going to be called From Offer to Closing Table, Navigating the Selling Process After an Accepted Offer. And yes, we did a similar show, maybe a month or two ago, but, this is really getting down to the timeline, not just, okay, you got an accepted offer. What does that mean? And going through all of the contingencies. This is sort of after the fact.
Yeah.
And of course, our number one thing is, always analyze and review that accepted offer very carefully. There are different forms, so some forms have things hidden a little bit on the top page.
We have another new form in Massachusetts.
Yeah, some forms have all of the contingencies on, page 1, page 2, page 3. Who knows? You've received quite a few offers on some of your listings in the past few weeks, and even some of the brokerages have their own offer pages and things like that. So you just want to be careful, make sure that you're reading through everything, making sure that if they're asking for appliances or pool equipment or anything, it's not hidden anywhere. You can give all the information.
That happens a lot. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes, you're so far in the woods, you don't see the trees, so to speak. And when you end up with multiple offers, that's why I think our standing operating procedure for multiple offers is legit. Like it is ironclad, yeah, ironclad. And it's really important because I know that you're going through them with like a fine tooth comb. I'm coming up with all kinds of little things today, aren't I?
What other things can we say?
I don't know. But when you're going through them, I mean, you're certainly looking for all those things. When I'm looking at, my report, I can clearly see what is included, what isn't included. But also sometimes the communication, when I'm communicating what these offers are to the seller themselves, sometimes, it's like, all right, well, let me back up because they're asking questions along the way. And it's like, oh, let me read. Oh, yeah. Also, they are asking for the washer, dryer, refrigerator, or the refrigerator in the garage, which we all missed because it was behind boxes and junk. And you didn't tell me it was there. So how would I see it?
Yeah. And even like in some homes when they have like a chill fridge, like for wine or beer, things, it could be in the kitchen. It can be at a dry bar. It can be in the cabana, something like that. So just making sure that everything is either excluded in MLS if you want to take it with you, or if it's included in an offer, or snuck into a purchase and sales.
Or snuck into it. Well, and that's the other thing too that I will say. I've been a little feisty as of late this year. I feel our radio shows have been a little feistier, and I'm just saying it how it is now. Like I just feel like there are some times where I'm like too polite. That's funny, huh? You're like, you too polite? But like, honestly, like I feel as if, there've been times where I hold back and I don't say exactly what are some of the things that are happening. But like, I got frustrated with somebody again this week because how did you not tell me this? Or like when the attorneys get involved, and the attorneys have such an important role in this, but I feel as if we respect everybody else's role. Right. And sometimes I wonder if our role is respected in this, but it's like after everything is said and done, and like we found out this week from our client, which there is nothing more embarrassing in the world to me that when my client comes to me with information that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
How the hell did I not know about this if I'm the listing agent on the property that you changed the closing date?
Yeah, I mean, there are conversations that are happening without you, and It's like, why hasn't anybody said, okay, this is an important role? There are things that you are responsible for as a listing agent, and we'll get into that. It's sort of like a dual responsibility with a seller, requirements that are needed in order to sell your home in an orderly timeline and fashion, but it's also ultimately your responsibility to either do them yourself or let your client know that that's something that they're responsible for. So timeline things that we already have things lined up, like a smoke inspection or final water and things like that are really important. And in this case, we had already had a conversation with your client about utilities, and we'll get to that part too. And so now that the date has changed, now we have to know, okay, are we responsible for changing that date with the utilities, or are the utilities already going to be in the buyer's name because the closing date was actually being pushed a day? So things like that, you just need to know, because these things need to be on. You need to have electricity to know that it works.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, I reached out to that agent and I sent her a text to her and the loan officer, and it's, all one big happy family over there anyways. And I said, hey, I heard that we've changed the closing date. And her response was, oh, I didn't hear if that was confirmed. I was like, then you should check in with everybody because we've been told that it was changed.
Yeah, our seller is under the impression that it has been.
Yeah.
So if you don't know that your buyer is requesting that, that's a little bit of an issue.
Well, yeah. And it's almost like she did know, but like she didn't follow up. And this is the thing that's really frustrating is, well, hey, here's the thing. I understand that people have other things going on, whatever. I'm not even going to go down that road right now. But I do think if you keep me in the loop, we're very capable of handling the whole thing. In fact, at the beginning of this one, I wish I had just said, you know what, why don't you just go deal with your other job and we'll just take care of it and you'll still get a paycheck. It is worth me to pay you to stay out of my way.
Yeah.
Because all I can see is that things are getting confusing. So... yeah. So the whole when do I, that's where some of this came up.
Yeah. I also want to go through steps of responsibility for a seller, and we can sneak in what we're responsible for as well as listing agents. But, after the accepted offer, in the state of Massachusetts, every buyer has the right to a home inspection. We've done shows on this. We've gone over the new forms and everything. So, it is sort of, there is a responsibility for a seller to prepare for a home inspection, even though they're not the ones conducting it on their home. There are certain things that they, are responsible for. And the major ones are making sure the home is accessible for the inspector, making sure that, that there's clear access to the attic, to the basement, electrical panel, things like that, heating system, water heater, the garage, if there's a crawl space, making sure that there's easy access to those things because they have a right to inspect
Getting
them.
into a crawl space and having all the screws, having it bolted down. That happened to, my niece who was buying a house recently, and we couldn't get in there. Actually, it was when I was on vacation and Sue Bollinger went and Sue's like, I'll get in there. Sue was able to get in there.
Glad Sue was there because I would have been like, oh no.
I don't know what we do. But, backing up a little bit, this is one of those things, this whole conversation came up like, when does this happen? And it is our job to communicate with you to let you know when these things are happening. And, what we're talking about right now is this home inspection. So in the state of Massachusetts, obviously, that's where we are. We are a two contract state. So we go from an offer to purchase to a purchase and sales agreement. And when does the buyer, so if you're the buyer or the seller, when do I have my home inspection? When should I expect the home inspection to be done? That would generally be done within that 7 to 10 day time period of, you got the accepted offer, and then you have 7 to 10 days generally to sign the purchase and sales agreement.
Yeah.
So that's when that will be happening.
Yeah. And, people are savvy. There are agents that are savvy. There's buyers that are savvy. So that timeline can even be tighter than that by getting a home inspector out and having the ability to review that home inspection within a reasonable time, goes into the offer. So,
And a big conversation we've been having, and I truly don't know if it will take place here, but I do have Clubhouse on right now. I think that they can hear me, but I'm not sure. I'm going to ask Megan to unmic at one point and talk, just so I can see if we can hear her. Okay, so we can hear you faintly. So I have to figure out what that is. But thank you, Megan. I appreciate that. And one of the conversations that's happening that we were having on Clubhouse is doing a pre-home inspection. So that could happen before you put your house on the market. So that would be the timeline for that.
Yeah. So in the offer with, that contingency of the home inspection, you do have a timeline. So it's having that conversation with your seller and saying, hey, they do have a timeline of maybe 7 days. We'll say that. But they're having their home inspection in 2 days. So informing them, hey, the buyers have scheduled their home inspection. And that's when it becomes the seller's responsibility to make some plans to not be there. We don't advise you to be home. And even if you have pets, arranging that your pets aren't there either. And I know that is difficult. We have done shows on moving with pets and everything like that, moving with pets and kids. But, making sure that your dog's not running around like crazy when all these new people are in the house is really important. So scheduling that, making sure that the buyers are comfortable walking around with their home inspector. It's not a bad thing. I think there's a negative aura around it. It doesn't have to be bad.
No, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to hide.
Yeah,
I mean, if you disclosed everything about your home previously,
yeah.
Home inspectors are going to find things. It's interesting when you talk about home inspections, and we haven't had like a specific just home inspection show in a while. But I honestly think that sometimes things come up in a home inspection, and the person who's most surprised by it is actually the seller.
Yeah.
Of course, if I had known that was a situation. If I had known that was a situation with my house, I would have taken care of it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, because some people are like, no.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
No.
Well, and that's just, that's all market driven as well. And, one of the things I learned about the market, by the way, is I have this new listing in Dedham. And boy, the market, not only is it different state to state, which is why one of the reasons I love, having conversations and friendships with, all my friends on Clubhouse and having them throughout the state. And obviously, Cindy is international with, having her own brokerage in Turkey. And knowing what the markets are. But honestly, 45 minutes from here is a completely different market than it is what we're feeling right here on the South Shore.
Yeah. And I just want to point out that we went to the garden last night, Ethan and I. And
went to the garden?
Yeah. And it took us almost 2 hours to get there.
Oh, my goodness.
We left my house at 5:35. We pulled into the garden at 7:28.
Wow.
The whole time I said, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. This is why I don't come to the city.
Yeah.
And it should take us 45 minutes.
Yeah, because you saw a comedian last night, right?
Yeah. So, but I was like, oh my gosh, but there were so many accidents. So it's like, oh, we'll take you through Quincy and all of a sudden I'm like, it wasn't faster.
No.
2 hours.
I always say if I had to deal with that traffic every day, people commuting in and out of the city.
Well, yeah, I sort of jinxed us because I could see it coming from the other direction. And I'd say, oh, it's a good thing we don't, because he could, with his work, he could transfer to Boston, but he won't because he'll be sitting because of that.
Because of that.
Craziness. What do we do?
Yeah. Just for our WATD listeners, thank you for tuning in this morning. If you have we haven't had callers in a while, and I'm not sure if I've actually given the phone number, 781-837-4900. 781-837-4900. If you have any questions, comments about this specific topic, feel free to give us a call. Tim is in studio. You can also text him and he'll read us the text. And actually, I just remembered.
We didn't answer that question last week.
After the show last week, he had texted us and I forgot about it because I had a busy weekend. But you can call us. Even if you have another topic or anything about real estate, feel free to give us a buzz, 781-837-4900. 837-4900. And I do have my friends on Clubhouse. Megan, I'm going to
Sharon,
ask
do you
you.
remember that question?
I don't. I can look
Oh,
it
well,
up.
I'll pull it right up for you. Hold
All
on
right,
one
perfect.
sec.
And Megan, can you on mic for a second? Let me just see if I can hear you. I turned up one of my volumes.
I sure can. Good morning from Long Island, New York.
Yeah, so I can hear you a little bit better. So that's good. All right, awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, I have the text here.
Okay.
Okay.
This was 781. It was a real estate question. How big is a 4-room bedroom septic, and can the buyer choose to have no inspection?
I'll do the inspection. So was it an inspection on the septic or a home inspection? Do you know?
That's the text that I.
I think it was on septic because we talked
Yeah.
about septics last week, right? Didn't we talk at one point we were talking about septic systems?
Yeah, for like a bed,
Yeah.
like, oh, you're selling as a 4-bedroom, but it's really a 3-bedroom septic. Yeah.
Yeah. So repeat the question again, Tim, for me.
Okay, one sec. I'm too quick sometimes. All right. How big is a 4-room bedroom septic,
Yeah.
and can the buyer choose to have no inspection?
Yeah. So the Title V inspection is generally done by the seller. Does it have to be? No. Does that the way it works out? Yes. And the reason why you have to have a Title V inspection, especially if you're getting a loan, in most instances, and we'll do a whole septic show. In most instances, the bank is not going to loan you money unless you have a passing Title V, right? So a 4-bedroom septic system needs, and every septic system is different. So
Yeah.
it, generally speaking, what we're seeing right now is a 1,500-gallon tank. And then it's the size of the leaching fields that actually is what is delegating the number of bedrooms. So I could have a 2-bedroom house with a 1,500-gallon tank. I could have a 5-bedroom house with a 1,500-gallon tank. It's the size of the leaching field that will constitute what the bedroom size is. Now, there are many, many types of septic systems. So the best thing to do is, if you have to get a new septic system, is call an engineer.
Yeah. And cash is different if you're purchasing, if you're in a position
Yeah.
that you can purchase cash, that can be something that you decide on your own. And also there are circumstances where sellers refuse to do a Title V and put it on the buyer, but that limits your buyer pool as well.
And we generally see those in flips, like smaller priced houses. There is one that's on the market right now that we were sort of dealing with this week, and that one of my clients had some interest in. And at the end of the day, it was just it's really complicated to figure that out. But the nice thing is if you are a seller and you are selling your house, and let's just say you have a failed septic system. At that point, if you have, right now currently have a 3-bedroom septic with a 1,000-gallon tank, let's just say, and you have to replace your system, and you're going to put in a 1,500-gallon tank, and let's just say you already have a buyer procured for that, for your property. I would sometimes go back to the buyer and say, hey, we know that we're going to have to install a new system. I already marketed this house as a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom. Do you want to increase the size of the leaching field in order to make it a 5-bedroom or 4-bedroom, like one extra bedroom, 2 extra bedrooms or whatever? So I'll always do that when we're in the process, and leave that up to the buyer. But the seller isn't responsible to make it anything more than it already is. So I hope that answered our caller's question from last week, and sorry about that. Tim did give me your phone number to call you back, and I my time got away from me last week.
Yeah. And I will note that there are other states where it is the buyer's responsibility to do a Title V inspection. So even if it falls apart,
wild.
I know, even if it falls apart, then the next buyer would do another Title V inspection, which
don't know
I think is crazy.
Well, first of all,
Crazy.
as a buyer, I don't know that I would want to take that added expense to do
Yeah,
that.
it's like part of like a home inspection type
Yeah.
thing. So it's just like an add-on that,
Yeah.
they're responsible for. So
And as a seller, do you want someone like ripping up your yard every time to do?
I know. That's why I was like, really? And then what if you get it pumped in between and then
Yeah.
there's nothing to show and you get
Well, if you get it
fail?
pumped within 2 weeks, it's an automatic fail.
Yeah.
Anyways, if they peek in there and say, "Looks like you just had this pumped. Good try." But we'll do a whole show on Title V because it just happens to be one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, and please,
let's talk
please
poop.
pump your septic
Yeah,
systems.
that's chuck poop. All right, where are we, girl?
Okay, the next part and is responding to the inspection request. So again, you have that timeline. You talk about that timeline with your agent. I'm talking to sellers here, and you can respond to any requests. So after the inspection, the buyer they may ask for repairs or credits, a price adjustment, or just even if it's just additional information about certain things, like when you serviced, or how old the roof is and things like that. So you have that timeline that you know about in your offer, that to answer those and to come back and sort of negotiate that. Then you move on to the next step.
And one of the things I want people to know, whether you're a buyer or a seller, is, these timelines are put in place to keep on track with what that current contract is sort of stating, right? We want to close on this date. In order to get to that date, we want to sign the purchase and sales by this date. In order to sign the purchase and sales by this date, we need to have the home inspection by this date. So, and a lot of times when you're talking about home inspections, and we've been very busy in our neck of the woods here, that maybe you can't get the time off from work and you can only do it on a Saturday or something like that. But, and you're at the mercy of the schedule of the home inspectors. And if you feel as if you're getting too close, I always tell people, do your home inspection sooner than later, because then if like an issue comes up with plumbing or electric or something else, maybe we find evidence of mold and you want to bring in a mold specialist, it gives you still time within that 7 to 10 day time period. And I'm using that as sort of a quote unquote standardish timeline. So do things sooner than later so you can bring in the specialist to give you more insight into what is going on. But don't fret, because if you don't make the timelines, there's this thing called an extension of time. So as much as our job is to keep everybody on track and on pace with what the current timelines are in that contract to purchase, if things go sideways a little bit with timing, all you have to do is do an extension of time in order to, do your home inspection or to sign the purchase and sales agreement. Now, this one that I was talking about the other day that, changed the closing date on us and no one thought it was important to tell us, apparently. That same agent, when we went to sign the PNS, I might have actually hit upon this a couple weeks ago too. It's like, all right, I sent you a message at 9:30 this morning. We have to, today is the deadline. That's why we're watching the deadlines.
Yeah.
Today is the deadline. If we don't meet that deadline, we are out of contract.
Yeah.
Period. Amen.
Yeah.
And shame on you for the buyer side, because I have backups and it. So
Yeah, and don't risk your deposit.
don't exactly. Yeah. And it's up to agents. It's our fiduciary. We're a fiduciary state. That means fiduciary responsibility goes back to us for our clients, right? Old car. All right. So, but with that, we didn't, the timeline, I was 9:25 in the morning when I sent the email like, hey, we have to sign this purchase and sales agreement. It's due today. My seller is ready. When you are, one is traveling, one is local, but likes to sign everything with a wet signature. So let's get this rolling. 6:30 at night, I'm like, knock, knock.
Hello?
Knock, knock. Like, again, I checked in at 12, no response. It's 6:30. Knock, knock. Where is everybody? Guess what? Guess who's going home now?
Yeah.
Me. I'm going home now. So I hope you had fun doing whatever it was you were doing all day. But, I'm not, now we need an extension of time.
Yeah. The next part, so we talked about purchase and sales, so reviewing your agreement with your attorney, making sure that all the terms match what was negotiated. So, confirm any included items, deposit, closing date, contingencies, and sign by the deadline. Here we go. And ask questions before signing, not after. Okay. Ask questions before.
You say that like that obviously came up at some point, because the way you just said it, like I could hear in your tone, like,
Please ask questions.
knock, knock.
No question is stupid.
No, there isn't. I mean, and you know what? I sort of disagree with that.
I mean, there are stupid questions.
Yeah.
Let's be real, but always ask before signing a legal document. Let's do that.
Yeah, and always consult an attorney if you feel the need to.
Which you should have a real estate attorney during your transaction. But moving on to sort of a next contingency. So if your buyer is receiving, a mortgage, is getting a mortgage, and has not waived their contingencies when it comes to that. Maybe in an appraisal contingency they haven't waived, so there is needed an appraisal is needed on the property. Make sure that you allow access for the appraisal. So again, that an appraiser will call your listing agent. The listing agent will set up that appointment and let you know, hey, I'm going to meet the appraiser at this date on this time, and making sure that that property, there is access to that property, and keeping the home in show ready condition, I think is great. You always want to highlight the best of your home, but again, you're in the process of moving, so there is understanding. I mean, these people go into homes all the time in all different conditions. But you want to be able to show the value.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that sometimes people will get really nervous about that, and I think being ready is as ready as you possibly can be, right? So it really depends on when the appraiser is going to get there. So if we have short timelines, then sometimes you are in the midst of packing and there are boxes and there are all kinds of things. But do your best to make it so the appraiser can get, weave in and out of the property quickly. One of the things that wasn't on here, even back further, because this is from offer to the closing table, so maybe that's why it isn't on this agenda, but being prepared for showings. Always. You're leaving for work that morning, the house should be ready for showings, right?
Yeah.
Because you never know when somebody's going to call. But I have been known to go over there and vacuum and make beds and do dishes and get everything out of the sink. So
Wipe
we don't want to
spaghetti sauce off of the wall.
Yeah,
Done that.
Yeah, we've done that.
Staying on top of agreed repairs. So the next step would be, if you did negotiate after that home inspection or at any point in the timeline up until this point that we're talking about right now, making sure that you stay on top of that, especially if you have a tight timeline. I have seen, and I'll say, the number 14 has come up a lot here in the office. Through conversations with some of our agents, I have found out that a few of our agents who have put listings on recently have received 14 offers.
Really?
Yes, 14 offers on their properties. And I mean, it's tough. It's tough to narrow it down to one, especially because I always say at some point they all start to, once you have more than 10, they all start to kind of look like each other.
They are very similar a lot of times, yeah.
But if you have a tight timeline, making sure that you're on top, I mean, you should always be on top of everything, really. But, being on top of anything that you agreed upon. So, that means hiring qualified professionals when it's appropriate. It's not just you. There are a lot of people in the trades that are very busy. So making sure that you're able to get, if it's an HVAC person, if it's an electrician or anything. And of course you have fantastic referrals. So always ask your agent, hey, do you have anybody, if you don't already have somebody who services those things. But making sure that you're on top of anything that you agreed upon.
And too, going through like these, and I want to go back to the mortgage one afterwards too, because I wanted to talk about this commitment. But when we're on this one, I think having, all of the documentation with you when you are, when you are discussing things with your client, like what are the things that we have to be looking for at the final walkthrough? What are the things that the buyer's agent should be making a list of all the items that were discussed. I know in new construction, I walk around with the Rider B, which is all of their upgrades list. So I print that off as I'm walking through at the final walkthrough and checking off that everything has been completed, that was discussed.
Yeah.
So that is something that should certainly be done well before the home inspection. New construction is a completely different story, but that's when we do it. But I think, as a buyer's agent, having these things and occasionally asking, or as a seller's agent, I'll use a good example is one of the listings I have, they were asked to open the pool before closing. And in order to do that, we had to get the water on, so Mark went over, put the water on so they could open the pool. And once the pool was open, gremlins come in the middle of the night and the heater to the pool was not working. So she had to replace it. But this is one of those things where there are options. There's an electric one, which she has, or there's a propane one. What does the new buyer prefer? Because my client is leaving. So that's why I reached out and said, hey, does your client want to pay the differential between these two and they can upgrade the system, blah, blah, blah. So we went through that whole process. They ended up staying with the same one, but we did that a long time, like plenty of time to
Yeah.
get that done, because if she had waited to open the pool 2 days before we were closing, we would have never, by the time we found out that the pool heater was broken and then had it installed and everything else, it would have been too much time to
Yeah.
do that, to get that fixed. But during that whole process, I very much, as the listing agent, stayed in contact with the buyer's agent and said, hey, just want to let you know about this. Just want to let you know about that. After our water bill fiasco last week, knock, knock, check your water bills and the readings and question them if
Yeah.
you suddenly went through 550,000 gallons of in 2 months or something?
Yeah,
and
4
you had
months.
4 months and you had a $6,000 bill. That doesn't sound right. So we got that squared away. But I did call the buyer's agent and said, hey, just want to let you know we did the final water reading today. There was a bit of a fiasco. So when your client moves in, make sure he's aware. I know that everything is working right, but they messed up the numbers when it got transposed.
Yeah.
Just so they know that to keep their eye on the water bill. It's working perfectly fine. So we went from a $6,000 water bill to a $54 bill.
$54
Yeah.
from 6,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were like, if there was 550,000 gallons of water, wouldn't we see that somewhere?
Yeah, where would that go? Like, that's what.
Where would it go?
That's what I said to the water department. I said, honestly, I just, this is something about me where people, when I ask questions, they think I'm questioning
Yeah.
them. I have to change my tone or something. But I was like, just so you know, like, I'm not questioning you. I'm just asking a question. But like, I can visually picture what a gallon of water or milk looks like in a big jug. Now I'm trying to picture 550,000 of those.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't we see it somewhere?
The house probably isn't even big enough. You couldn't even, stack them all together.
Yeah, I'm like, where would all that water go? So, anyways, you have to keep your eyes open for that type of stuff. But stay in communication with, if you're the listing agent, stay in communication with the buyer's agent. I think is really important through this process. So everybody is on top of what all these dates are.
Yeah. So again, keeping receipts, invoices, even taking photos, making sure that you have, what you need in order to prove that you've done the work.
Kristen just had a situation.
Yes, Kristen did have a situation.
Yeah, and the seller had, so it was after the fact, something was happening with one of the mechanicals, and Kristen reached back to her client. It's already passed papers and everything a couple months ago, but she was able to reach back to her seller, and the seller had the receipts for all the work that had been done.
Yeah.
So it is important to keep all of that stuff.
Yeah. Moving on to smoke and carbon monoxide certificates. So you would be getting a smoke and carbon inspection. So there is a time. Usually, we like to do maybe 4 weeks before closing, because in case anything needs to be repaired, like being able to
Are they good
replace
for like
it.
60 days? The
They're
smokes
good
are
for 60 days. Each town is a little bit different. Sometimes the town dictates you can add on, but you can't take away from the requirements. So they can add on and say maybe it's a tighter timeline than the 60 days, but generally it's about 60 days. But recently you had a listing. The seller took it upon themselves to have the smoke detectors and the carbon monoxide detectors inspected before even going on the market. And because of the timeline of going on the market and how, the timeline went with the offer, that certificate was going to expire, I think, like the day before closing.
Yeah, we didn't want to chance that.
Did not want to chance that. So the property had to be re-inspected. So that process is just generally, the listing agent will take care of it in most cases, calling the fire department and scheduling that and meeting the fire department and making sure that all of those detectors are up to the requirements. I know you as a listing agent send the requirements to your client and make sure, hey,
By maybe do you mean you?
yes, give the thumbs up. Just give me the thumbs up that, everything is in working order. They're less than 10 years old. They're
Yeah.
not yellow. If you walk in and you see a yellow detector,
It's more than 10 years
it's more
old,
than 10
probably.
years old.
And we recently had one where they took down the detectors and put up just and didn't replace them with electric one. I mean, with the
Photoelectric.
Yeah, but they wanted the battery ones for some reason
Yeah.
or another. So, but they had to call in an electrician to get those all changed out. So it's really good to be proactive about getting the inspection, getting the smoke and carbon monoxide detectors taken care of well before you have the smoke inspection with the fire department, because if you're doing that smoke inspection a couple weeks before closing and then they're saying no, you have to replace all these and they all have to be hardwired, and now try to find an electrician that can do that. I mean, we're very fortunate that we have a really good group of people that come to the come to us
to the rescue.
They come to the rescue a lot for us. But don't bank on that. You know what I mean? Someone could be on vacation or anything like that. So, to our WATD listeners, you are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. Of course, I am Sharon McNamara, the broker owner of Boston Connect Real Estate, and I am with my sidekick, Melissa Wallace. She is the director of operations here and the agent and agent relations here at Boston Connect Real Estate. We have Tim McKinney, who's in the house in Marshfield. If you have any questions for us, you can call the studio, 781-837-4900, 781-837-4900. You can call him, text him, give us a little jingle and say hello to us. We haven't had a caller in a while. I haven't been asking for them that much either. And if you're watching us on any of our feeds, we're not doing Instagram today, but if you're watching us on any of our other feeds and you have a question for us, you can send it and we will be able to monitor that on our screen as well. And I'm not sure if anything is going on in Clubhouse, if one of the mods can just, sort of pay attention to that. And if there are any questions in there, or if anybody has any insight that they want to give a holler, I think I can hear you faintly. So feel free to unmic and let me know.
Getting back to the smoke requirements, like I said, there's a sort of a blanketed requirement across the state, and then each town can add to it. So they can't take away from the requirement, they can add to it. So there are some towns that, require a smoke detector in every bedroom. There's towns that require a smoke detector over the dryer, where the heating system is, a heat detector in the garage, things like that. So making sure that you're always communicating, going on the town's website, making sure you have those town requirements as well. And even, I think that you can even call and say, hey, like I'm not quite sure. Is there any way that somebody can do a walkthrough with me?
Yeah.
And if they're
The
not,
fire departments are happy to do that.
if they're not in an emergency, I'm sure they don't mind.
Well, and that's when we do, that's the other thing too, is, when we're talking about timing, when we're timing out all of these things, when that will be done, when that smoke cert will be done. But there are times where they're out on an emergency. So sorry, a real fire takes precedence over seeing if your smoke detectors are working. So if we have to reschedule, we want to make sure we're giving ourselves plenty of time. One of the things I want to back up onto, Mel, is when we were talking about the buyer's mortgage process and that mortgage contingency. And I apologize if you had mentioned it, but one of the big things is the commitment letter date. And, making sure, so the commitment letter date is basically the bank saying that they have all the information they need and that they are committed to giving you this loan. And generally speaking, it's probably like 30 days from signed purchase and sales agreement. We can certainly get them a lot sooner than that. A lot of people are going through like underwriting beforehand so they can close in 20 days, making timelines really, really tight. But commitment letter date is really important for the buyer's agent. As a listing agent, I'm not reminding you.
Yeah.
Is that mean of me? Like, I don't feel like it is my responsibility as the listing agent to remind the buyer's agent that the commitment letter is due. So generally speaking, I wait a couple days after the date is due and just say, hey, just verifying that you did get a commitment letter. I don't even have to see it. Like, you just have to just tell me if you have it. The reason why you have to pay attention to that date, especially as a buyer's agent, is because if you miss it and if anything goes awry and you don't get that loan, your full deposit is now at jeopardy. I mean, generally speaking, the offer to purchase is $1,000 to $5,000, which I'm not minimizing the value of that much money, but let's just say it's $1,000 and you miss a deadline, like with the home inspection or something like that, you might lose $1,000. If you miss a commitment letter date, we're talking 5%. So that's 20, 30, 40, 50, $60,000. So you definitely don't want to jeopardize that. That's why these dates are so important. And that's why you have them in every single calendar and like pop-ups and all this other stuff. So we're reminded of when all these things are.
Yeah. When it comes to the seller, there's not really anything that the seller is responsible for when it comes to that. It's more the talks within ourselves. So, with the listing agent and the buyer's agent. And I know when you're a buyer's agent, you're really on top of, okay, yep, we got commitment, or we have a clear to close, like even so. And generally it's sort of close towards the closing date. Just because, there's always those last minute checks to make sure that, someone didn't lose their job.
Yeah.
They didn't buy a boat,
Or a four-door Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah,
That
things like
happened.
that.
That happened.
Well,
That happened to somebody. Yep.
yeah. So just making sure that everybody is, the financials are all in order. So I want to skip towards, because generally this happens around the same time, is a final water reading. I know you briefly talked about it with one of your clients, final water reading. And again, each town is different. So both with the smoke and the final water, there's generally a fee associated with that. But as we've learned over time, some towns don't charge a fee for a final water. And it's pretty much just a piece of paper that says how much usage you've used. Some towns require it to be paid before closing. Some towns require it to be paid at closing. Some towns prorate it, things like that. So it's always important for listing agents.
This is like behind the
generally-
scenes of real estate and what we do.
Yeah.
As you're talking, it's like, these are the things that our clients probably don't know that we know.
Yeah, but this is all information that we give them as well. So like when you have a listing, I'll ramble on for a second. When you have a listing in Pembroke, I know, we all know that the final water is to be paid in full before closing. So you have a final water reading, you wait 24 hours, the next day you can go into town hall and pay that. And then that certificate, that paid receipt, gets sent to the closing attorney. Marshfield is different. You don't pay that before. It's a prorated $55 or whatever it is now.
I think it was like $100.
Yeah, well, they charge for a reading. That's
Yeah.
why it went up to $100.
Yeah.
In Pembroke, the fee is $35, and that's put on the final bill as well. But Marshfield, you just get a little slip that says, okay, this is what's owed. You send it to the closing attorney. It gets paid at closing. So there's a prorated for both sellers and buyers, because it's like a 6 months. They do it every 6 months.
And talking about timing, though, this is another layer of what we are responsible for, and what we're looking for is, when can we have that reading? So in most instances, like, let's just say the town of Pembroke, right? Because that's where we're sitting right now. They basically they don't want you to have that reading until 2 days before the closing, because they want to make, the person who's living in there is responsible for the water.
Yeah.
If it's vacant, they'll make an exception for that, because no one's using water during that time. So if you think about it, I mean, our timelines are really tight at the end, where we're behind the scenes doing a lot of different things to make sure that, okay, one, we have to get it done 2 days before, then we don't get the bill until the next day.
Yeah.
And then we have to go over to town hall, we have to pay it. A lot of times, like, we ask our clients to leave us a check, and we'll pay it. If they can't, then we'll just pay it, and then they reimburse us. But all these documents are going back and forth between us and the paralegal and, everybody who's taking care of the final CD for the closing.
Yeah, and also being aware, this is getting tight to the timeline at the end, is there are some towns, like if they don't have private septic, then they have sewer. So you have to do a final sewer reading for certain
Oil.
towns. Oil. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm kicking you.
I just kicked
Propane.
you, I think.
I'm kicking you. And even some towns, they have municipal electric. So doing a final electric, things like that. So just making sure that you're aware of what your town requirements are, including, state requirements and things that we're all sort of responsible for.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, I hit upon sort of briefly right there, is like a final oil adjustment. It's just, It's one of the funny things to me, and I'm literally waiting for the day that someone says, "No, I don't want your oil. Take it." So what ends up happening is, if somebody fills their oil tank or whatever, they have half a tank of oil, the seller will get a reading, and the buyer is responsible to pay them for that oil. It makes zero sense to me. Like I literally want to be there the day that the buyer says, "I don't want your oil."
Well, how many times have we heard that somebody has moved in and there's like no
oil.
at all?
Yes.
And then now they're scrambling to try to get somebody to come in and
Yes.
deliver oil.
So sellers, it is your responsibility to keep oil in the tank until
Yeah.
the end to make sure that all your systems are running. Because here's the thing: that's another show. You're
Yeah.
jeopardizing the system. The system could break because there's no oil in it.
Yeah.
And make sure there's oil in the tank. We can get you your money back.
And there's verbiage. It's usually in the purchase and sales agreement that the buyer is, that there will be a final oil reading for whatever's left in the tank very close to closing. And that buyer is responsible for bringing a check to closing to paying for that oil. So.
And it looks like somebody did ask me a question on Clubhouse, and they said, what type of septic system is normal in your area? There's nothing normal about Massachusetts, just so you know. So there are different towns. Every town is so different, and it really matters what the soil is like wherever that property is. So generally speaking, everybody loves a gravity-fed system. Where our building is, when I bought this building in 2019 for my office, and where my home studio is, so where we're working from right now, I had to install a new septic system. Well, the seller was responsible to do that, and we have a pump up system, and so our tank is in the back and our field is in the front. So we have a pump up system because it isn't gravity fed, but everybody loves a gravity fed system. But there are different types of systems, and I'm going to do a whole show on septic systems because I love that, because you can have a field, you can have trenches, and you can have chambers. So there's all different types of systems that you can do. And maybe I can get my favorite people on the show, Brian Kane from Kane Construction and Shane McGlone from McGlone. I think is he McGlone Enterprises?
I'm not sure.
But he's our septic engineer. So yeah, really good.
We only have about 2 minutes left, so I don't know if you
Wow.
want final say, and then you have an open house today. So
I do. So just final thoughts for our show today is that from offer to closing, navigating the selling process and the buying process after an accepted offer, just keep in mind those timelines and those dates are really, really important when it comes to protecting your deposit money and keeping you in contract. That's why we're always looking at those dates, and we're really on top of those dates to make sure that you are protected throughout that whole entire process. So, and we're there to help you and guide you. And, when you say, when do I, hopefully I've already given you the answer before you even have to ask that question. But sometimes people are a couple steps ahead of us in that process where they're thinking about, 3 weeks from now versus just what's coming up right in front of them. So we're happy to do that. We have a full timeline. We can also put together a guide on the timelines in a workbook, of timeline. So if you'd like to get any of that information, feel free to reach out to us, realestate@bostonconnect.com, and we can get a guide put together for you so you have all the timelines as they relate to Massachusetts. And yes, so I'm going to be today with Mr. Mark McNamara. We're going to be in Dedham today at 113 Ledgewood Road in Dedham. It's the green, oh gosh, I forgot what I was going to say. Anyways, it's in a wonderful neighborhood. I can't believe I just had a brain freeze.
It's in a neighborhood.
It's in a neighborhood. It's a sought after neighborhood. I want to say Greenbush, but I know I'm thinking of the commuter Green Lodge area. Yes. So I'm going to be on Ledgewood, 113 Ledgewood today from 11 to 1. So if you want to come to the open house, we had a good turnout last night. We were there, but if you want to come visit us, we'll be there again from 11 to 1. Of course, Cochise Estates, we still have availability over at our new construction. Somebody will be there today from 10 to 2, and I will be there tomorrow on Mother's Day from 10 to 2. So if you want to swing by and say hello to me, me, I will be at Cochise Estates in West Bridgewater. You can use Metacomet Road to get there.
Yeah, Gina Graff has a new listing to Ridgewood Circle in Bridgewater. It's a 55-plus community. She will be there today and tomorrow from 12 to 2. That is on for $289.9.
Perfect. Yes. And my listing is $739, by the way,
Yeah.
in Dedham. So have a great day and happy Mother's Day
Happy
to all
Mother's
the
Day,
moms
everybody.
out there. And I wish you all the best. Bye, everybody.
Since we're together, we might as well say.
The South Shore's first choice for live team coverage of breaking news, emergency traffic, and